You people always think you're above the law just because you wore a uniform. The prosecutor pointed his finger at the woman sitting at the defendant's table. His voice was loud and mean. Everyone in the courtroom could hear the anger. His name was David Brennan, and he had been a prosecutor for 8 years. He thought he was tough and smart. Miss Torres here wants us to believe she's some kind of hero. But heroes don't break the law. Heroes don't destroy property. Heroes don't put innocent people in danger. The woman was Maria Torres. She was 34 years old. She sat up straight in her chair, hands folded on the wooden table. Her hair was pulled back neat and simple. She wore a plain black suit from a discount store. The suit was a little too big for her, but it was the best she could afford. Maria had served in the Air Force for 12 years. She flew rescue helicopters in 3 different wars. She had saved over 40 lives. She had pulled wounded soldiers from burning buildings. She had flown through enemy fire to rescue people who were trapped. But looking at her now, sitting alone at that table, nobody in the courtroom knew any of that. The case was simple, but the prosecutor was making it sound complicated. 3 weeks ago, Maria had been driving home from her job at the hardware store. It was a Tuesday night, around 9 o'clock. She was tired from working a double shift. Then, she saw the car accident. A family sedan had flipped over after hitting a patch of ice. The car was upside down, and smoke was coming from under the hood. Maria could hear screaming from inside. A mother and her 2 young children were trapped. Maria didn't think twice. She grabbed a rock from the roadside and broke the car window. She pulled the mother out first, then the 6-year-old boy, then the 4-year-old girl. All 3 were crying but alive. To get them to safety, Maria had to move some traffic cones. She also used her own car to block traffic so other cars wouldn't hit the accident. In doing all this, she damaged a fence and scratched her car against a light pole. The prosecutor didn't care about the family she saved. He only cared about the broken fence and the property damage. He said Maria should have waited for the police and fire department. If you've ever had to break rules to save someone, type hero below. Your Honor, Prosecutor Brennan continued, walking back and forth like he was on a stage. This defendant thinks military service gives her the right to destroy property. She thinks she can play hero whenever she wants. She thinks normal laws don't apply to her. Maria's lawyer was young and nervous. His name was Timothy Walsh. He was 26 years old and fresh out of law school. He worked for the public defender's office because Maria couldn't afford to hire her own lawyer. Tim was a good person, but he was scared of experienced prosecutors like Brennan. She saved a family, Tim said quietly, looking down at his notes. She broke the law, Brennan shot back, his voice getting louder. Military people always think they're special. They think they can do whatever they want. They think normal rules don't apply to them because they served overseas. Maria's heart ached. She remembered fallen friends, Staff Sergeant Williams, killed when their helicopter was shot down, and Captain Garcia, who died saving civilians. Nightmares haunted her, reminders of those she couldn't save. Now this man accused her of arrogance. The courtroom was packed some for other cases, others just curious. No one was there for Maria. The family she rescued wanted to come but couldn't afford to miss work. The mother, a single parent, had written the judge, but Brennan dismissed it. Letters aren't enough, he said. Your Honor, I just wanted to help, Maria said quietly. Brennan scoffed. Cue the sob story. Next she'll brag about her service like that excuses breaking the law. Judge Harrison, near retirement, looked weary. Miss Torres, you're charged with property damage and reckless endangerment. The prosecution says you caused $1,500 in damage. How do you plead? Maria stood up slowly. Her back was straight, like she was still in the military. Not guilty, Your Honor, Brennan laughed. It was a mean laugh that echoed through the courtroom. Of course. They never take responsibility. They always have excuses. Maria felt completely alone. The courtroom was full of people, but nobody was on her side. She looked around at the faces watching her. Some looked bored. Some looked curious. None looked friendly. She thought about her time in the Air Force. She remembered the brotherhood, the way everyone looked out for each other, the way nobody ever fought alone. But that was years ago. Now she was just another person in a courtroom, being treated like a criminal. But then she remembered something important. Her old squadron commander, Colonel Jackson, had given her his business card when she left the Air Force 3 years ago. He was retired now, but he had written his personal phone number on the back. "Torres," he had said that day. "If you ever need backup, you call me. Doesn't matter what time. Doesn't matter what day. We take care of our own. Always." Maria had kept that card in her wallet for 3 years. She had never called him. She was proud. She liked handling things herself. She didn't want to bother anyone. But this felt different. This felt wrong. When the judge called for a lunch break, Maria walked outside the courthouse. Her hands were shaking a little as she found Colonel Jackson's card in her wallet. It was old and worn, but the phone number was still clear. She dialed the number. It rang twice. "Jackson here." "Colonel Jackson? This is Staff Sergeant Maria Torres, from the 41st Rescue Squadron. Sir, I need help." There was a pause. Then Colonel Jackson's voice got serious. "Torres, what's wrong?" Maria explained everything. The accident, the family, the prosecutor who was treating her like a criminal, how nobody seemed to care that she saved 3 lives. "Torres, you listen to me," Colonel Jackson said. His voice was strong and sure. "You did the right thing. You saved lives. That's what we do. That's who we are." "The prosecutor says I think I'm above the law," Maria said. "The prosecutor is wrong," Colonel Jackson replied. "You sit tight. Help is coming." "And Torres?" "Yes, sir? You're not alone. You never were." 8 minutes later, cars started pulling up to the courthouse. Military vehicles, black sedans, men and women in dress uniforms getting out. Maria watched from the courthouse steps. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The prosecutor was standing outside smoking a cigarette when he saw them. His face went white. He dropped his cigarette on the ground. General Patricia Hayes walked up the courthouse steps. She had 4 stars on her uniform. She was 52 years old and had been in the Air Force for 30 years. Behind her were 2 colonels and a major. All of them looked serious. All of them wore ribbons on their chests, showing their service. "Excuse me," General Hayes said to the bailiff at the door. "We're here for Staff Sergeant Torres." Inside the courtroom, everything changed when they walked in. The prosecutor suddenly looked very small. The judge sat up straighter in his chair. People in the gallery whispered to each other, wondering who these important-looking people were. General Hayes walked to the front of the courtroom. Her boots made sharp sounds on the floor. "Your Honor, I'm General Patricia Hayes, Commander of Air Force Rescue Command. I'm here to speak about Staff Sergeant Maria Torres." The prosecutor tried to interrupt. His voice cracked a little. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. These people have no standing in this case." General Hayes turned to look at him. Her stare was ice cold. "Son, I've been in the military for 30 years. I've seen combat in 4 different countries. I've commanded thousands of airmen. But I've never seen anyone attack a hero the way you just did." The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear people breathing. General Hayes turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, Staff Sergeant Torres flew 847 combat missions over 12 years of service. She saved 43 lives in hostile territory. She has the Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and a Purple Heart. She was shot down twice and survived both times." Colonel Jackson stepped forward. He was a tall man with gray hair. "Your Honor, I've served with thousands of airmen in my career. Maria Torres is the finest soldier I've ever known. She's brave. She's skilled. She's dedicated. She's no criminal. She's a hero." The prosecutor was sweating now. He looked around the courtroom like he was looking for help. "Your Honor, I didn't know about her service record." "You didn't know because you didn't care," General Hayes said. Her voice was calm, but firm. "You saw a woman in a cheap suit, and you decided she was nothing. You saw someone who works at a hardware store, and you thought she was just another criminal. You were wrong." Colonel Rodriguez, one of the other officers, spoke up. "Your Honor, 3 weeks ago, Staff Sergeant Torres did what she was trained to do. She saw people in danger, and she acted. She saved 3 lives, a mother and 2 children who are alive today because of her actions." The judge looked at the prosecutor. Counselor, do you wish to continue with this case? Brennan was sweating heavily now. His hands were shaking. Your Honor, given the new information about the defendant's service record, the state would like to drop all charges. Motion granted, the judge said immediately. Then he looked at Maria. Miss Torres, this court apologizes for how you were treated today. Your actions 3 weeks ago were heroic. Thank you for your service to our country. Maria felt tears in her eyes. Good tears. She had been so alone when she walked into this courtroom. Now she was surrounded by her military family. People who understood her. People who knew what service meant. If you think heroes deserve respect, type, never forget, below. General Hayes walked over to Maria. Torres, you should have called sooner. We're always here for you. Always. Thank you, ma'am, Maria said. I just wanted to help that family. That's what we do, General Hayes replied. That's what heroes do. They help people who need help. The prosecutor packed up his papers quickly. He didn't look at anyone. He had learned something important that day. Never judge someone by how they look. Never assume you know someone's story. The bailiff came over to Maria. Miss Torres, there are some reporters outside who want to talk to you. Maria looked at General Hayes. What should I do? Tell them the truth, General Hayes said. Tell them what really happened that night. The story spread fast through the Air Force about the prosecutor who wronged a hero, and the general who stood up for her. It became a powerful reminder. Service members always have each other's backs. Maria returned to her job at the hardware store, but something had changed. She no longer felt alone. She had a military family, people who cared, who'd show up if she ever needed them. She kept Colonel Jackson's card, but also had General Hayes's, Colonel Rodriguez's, and Major Kim's. A phone full of support. She didn't need them in crisis, but she called sometimes just to stay connected, to remember she still belonged. Prosecutor David Brennan changed too. He stopped assuming, started listening. He grew into a better lawyer and person. He even wrote Maria to apologize. The family she saved never forgot her. They sent Christmas cards every year. One day, Sarah and her kids came to visit. The children, now older, hugged her and called her their hero. Sometimes our biggest mistakes teach the best lessons.